Good skills again by him. Oh, marvellous goal by Lautaro.
Welcome to the Rangers journey.
Football fans love talking about flair. They love wingers, they love fullbacks bombing forward. But titles are built through the middle. Goalkeeper sets the tone, can win you 10 points a season. Centre-backs hold the line. The 6 who controls the chaos. The 10 that connects it all. And the striker that finishes the job. Tonight we strip Rangers right down the centre and ask the big questions. Is their spine good enough to win this league? I'm Scotty, this is the Rangers Journal, and I'm joined by the three men who never sit in the fence. I'm joined by Doug, Jock, and Dean his finish, putting his volumising dust on his hairdo. Dino, how you doing? I know you're there. Boys, if Rangers had one game tomorrow for the title, who are you trusting through the middle? Let's get into it. First, Jock, how you doing?
I'm good, Scotty. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody.
Doug, how you, pal?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks.
Good stuff. Dino, how you doing, pal?
I'm good, thank you. How are you getting on?
Aye, hanging together, mate. So, I'm going to start right off. Jock, who are you trusting? What's your setup and kind of who you got playing through the middle?
Right. I had it on my phone here. Right, so I went with a 4-4-2-2-2, which is the sort of the hybrid mix of a 4-4-2. Because obviously it got the result against Hearts. So I went for Butland in goal because he sort of picks himself. Romans, Fernandes. I've went for Giga because Suter the last couple of weeks just hasn't been at it. And I think at this point in time, you may as well throw in somebody Giga's body size in there beside Fernandes, because whenever they played together later on in the season, they've done all right. And I went with Sterling because Tav again was pretty poor on that plastic pitch. Chukwueze and Diomande in the middle. I figured we haven't really seen them too much together, and I think it's a partnership. I think we complement each other and work well because there's plenty of energy, plenty of drive between the two of them. And then I went Ant-Man on the left, Olsen on the right, because Ant-Man played in the left against Kilmarnock and he offered far more than that half an hour he got out there than Gassama's offered in I don't know how many games now, and I think I'm tired of seeing Gassama sort of hung out there and doing nothing. And then I went with Chermiti and Nadiri up top, where Chermiti sitting maybe just slightly deeper, and letting and sort of holding the ball up and getting everybody involved, because we know he can do. He has that ability. We've seen it. So that's my lineup. That's who I'd pick if I had to win the league tomorrow.
Cool. Doug, Nate Tav, go for it.
Well, you've ruined it all already. I mean, I kind of had two thoughts on the matter. The first was a basic, just a 3-4. Well, I suppose a 3-4-3, but a 3-4-2-1 specifically. But what I thought I'd go with is something more exciting. So it's a 4-3-2-1. So it's very much just a triangle, just to stab defenses, with a bit of movement in it. So that would be the kind of the sitting defensive position, a 4-3-2-1, and that would move into a 3-3-3-1 when we were on the attack. So the setup would be the initial back four would be Romans, Cornelius, who I decided to ignore injuries, so I've just kept players. So Romans, Cornelius, who would be my preferred choice, Fernandes and Tavernier, Chukwueze, Raskin and Diomande, then Moore and Olsen and Nadiri up top. And the way that would change, I would keep what we do at the moment where Raskin drops, and that would form a back three. So you'd have Raskin sort of sitting in the middle, in between Cornelius and Fernandes. Chukwueze and Dio would stay as the central two. Chukwueze with a slightly more defensive role, and Dio with license to roam forward. So Tavernier, he would push forward from right back, but rather than going down the wing, he would push forward and into the middle into a slightly more advanced midfield position,
right, to
basically just remove all defensive or the majority of defensive responsibilities from him. So basically take away the concerns that people have about Tavernier, but retain all his attacking. So he would be sitting just in front of the mid two with license to be able to spray the ball about and do what he does well, pick out passes, join the attack, etc. Romans is just more simple. He's just pushing up to provide width on the left. Olsen would then push out slightly, so he would be providing the width on the right, and then you'd have Moore with basically a free roll to support Nadiri up top. So that's how I'm going with.
Okay, because I'm just getting the comments. I'll start it. Dean, what's your lineup? Or spine, whatever you want.
Lineup would be Sterling, Manny, Cornelius, Romans, and same formation as Jock. I'd have Barron and Chugwani in the middle, Ant-Man on the left, Olsen on the right, and Nadiri up top, but rotating with Miovski and Chermiti. Probably play Chermiti, Hearts, Celtic, Motherwell, and I'd be playing Miovski in other games.
Cool, sounds good. Right, first we're going to get tucked into Jocks here. Doug, there's no Tav in it. It's the last match of the season here. No captain in the starting lineup. Go for it. Pick Coles in it. You're on mute.
Yellow card. I suppose my first question for Jock is, who is the captain? Because he's not got Suter in there either.
That's a good question, actually.
Right.
Is it Butland or someone else?
I wouldn't get to Butland, if I'm being honest. You know, like who I'd get to? I'd get to Fernandez. So that'd be my pick. I go unknown. He was one talking about fire in the belly in the press conference after the Levy game. So I get to him. Go ahead, there's a captain. Don't show us what you can do. Lead the team.
So that would be my first concern then, that one of the least experienced players in our squad has been made captain. But that's a nitpick because as I've said many times, you shouldn't need an armband to lead. So I'm not too concerned about that. I think it's a good team. I think it's defensively solid enough. As much as I know people are upset with Suter having made his mistakes, I still think he's probably our best defender all in. When you consider experience and everything else, he does make mistakes, but he also has exceptional matches.
Right.
And so, I mean, I would probably still have him ahead of Giga at the end of the day. I've not got a problem with people playing, not wanting to play Tav, because I'm assuming, Jock, that Tav's on your bench.
Oh, yeah. Tav's there to come on.
So
same way Mikey Moore's there to come on and Gassama's there to come on, because I think you look at the games over the season, Gassama's biggest impact probably is when he's come on late in games and players are knackered, and the same with Mikey Moore as well. If you're 60, 70 minutes into a game and you're knackered and you're up against it all that time, and then you look over and you see flipping 2 19, 20-year-olds coming on, pace to burn, trickery, unknown elements to their game that are still quite raw, you're going to be like, I can't be bored. This is going to be a nightmare. That's the sort of impact I want them sort of guys to have. And if this is based on I want 90 minutes, perfect opportunity.
So that's fine. I don't have a problem with people making that selection. Obviously, there are reasons to pick Sterling defensively, and you'd have to have there to bring on if you needed more attacking emphasis. My main issue or my main nitpick, I think, would be Moore not starting. I think that he's our best creative player, and so if we're going into a must-win game, for me, he has to start. He does have his off days, but even when he has his off days, I still think he brings something. And so I would probably have him on.
Who do you drop for him?
So you've got those four at the back. So who are the two and the two?
Dio and Chikwani sitting or in the middle of the park, and then you've got Ant-Man and Olsen either side. Then you've got
Ant-Man then. Then.
Cool. Dino, the last day of the season, say we're through it, we're away to Hearts or away to Falkirk, right? Falkirk's probably actually going to be one of our home games, but we'll stick with it anyway because it's a probability. We've got. Are you happy with Manny and Giga at the back?
No.
Who are you putting in then?
Pardon?
Who are you putting in then?
I'm having the Cornelius and probably. I think Manny and Giga, just because of the lack of experience there and just lack of cohesion between them, would put the fear in me. But I'd hope by then Manny and Cornelius will have played decent amount of football together, and that's who I'd be starting, because you've got the experience in the Cam Head and Cornelius, and you've got Fernandez, who brings a lot to the game and also brings a lot in the opposition box, and it could come down to a narrow win, but a set piece, a Manny header in the 89th minute type thing. Do you know what I mean? I'd want him on the park for that. So that's what I would go for.
Personally, I think Manny's my best defender. I think if he's come in, I think there's absolutely no doubt in his ability. It's just a matter of partnerships. Jock, I want to come to you on partnerships. You've went for Manny and Giga. I'm going to ask you to justify that a wee bit, because obviously there's on you go.
I picked this over the last probably 3 weeks. Right, take the Hearts game aside. Hearts game takes care of itself, because I think we all knew that we were going to beat Hearts at Ibrox. I think that was a given. But I'm looking at the Motherwell game, and I'm looking at the Hearts game, or sorry, the Hibs game, and then I'm looking there at the weekend, and common denominator for issues is Suter. One of the goals at the weekend was Suter's fault. Poor passing. But then that's why Raskin's not in the team, because his passing has been horrendous. I think Giga and Fernandez, when they did play together, this was during January. There was a game, 2 or 3 games where they got a run together, and they were solid. They were fine, and they complemented each other well. And granted, those games were at Ibrox, but still, I still think there was a working partnership there, and you think something that you could build on. To me, Suter got that new contract. He should be buzzing. He should be leading from the back, and just didn't show that to me. That's why I at this moment, personally, my trust in Suter's just isn't there, and that's why I couldn't put him in the lineup. It's the same with Raskin as well. Raskin's just he's a don't get me wrong, he does bits and pieces, but end product and stuff that benefits the team in terms of going forward and creating opportunities just isn't there. He looks like he wants to, that's fine. He wants to, but he just hasn't got the quality, or he's just not got the composure to pick the pass that we need.
Yeah.
And that's why. So that's my justification for them too.
Dean, let's talk about Spain a wee minute. I'm going to say a few names to you. Well, a win in Spain that I remember. So you're talking McGregor, Weir, Bougera, Ferguson, Thompson, Boyd and Miller. Now that was a title domestic win in Spain. We've not got a title domestic win in Spain currently, do we? Because we're rotating so much.
Aye, it's like what I said earlier on, using Manny and Giga, the lack of cohesion, because players are in and out the side often, and you're not allowing partnerships really to build. And the Spain that you just rattled off there, they would have played probably 40 games together at least that season. And that's obviously, looking back, its comparison is quite stark. But with Danny coming in, I think I'm playing devil's advocate here. I think with his very limited resources and inheriting a relatively dire side, he's constantly unsure what his best 11 is. And in hindsight, is a great thing, because we were all ambassading him for the team that he started, the passive, safe team that he went for. Motherwell that he went for at the weekend and stuff. And that's probably a large part because he doesn't have that spine that he can pick week in, week out, that he's guaranteed that they're going to be getting him over the line.
Yeah.
And that's and I mean, if he does win the league with the squad that he's got, massive credit. But I think the summer we will see some major reinforcements in that area to give him a starting spine going forward next season. But I think it's just going to be a case of just putting people in and hoping for the best and hoping that people can develop relationships, even though they're only playing 2 games a row and then out of the side. But a lot of it's got to do with what he's inherited. So we don't have like, what a point that Doug made, you didn't need an armband to be a leader. We don't have a team of leaders in that spine to really build around. So he's got very limited resources, and we can only hope for the best that every game between now and the end of the season he's able to develop relationships to make that spine stronger.
Doug, I want to take that question to you, but I'll go a wee bit deeper with it. Now, if you remember back to that era, you're talking about, like I said, maybe Darsville and Kuzan come in for European football. Obviously, Darsville started a lot in the domestic scene as well, but I would argue that the original spine I just round off was kind of your domestic go-to guys, your Broadfoot Whitakers. There was a constant backbone there of guys that knew what it meant. And I would argue that injuries didn't play as big a part as what they're playing these days. So my question is, like, along with this spine thing, is sports science beginning to ruin football and spines and cohesions, and is it affecting us that much?
I mean, is it affecting us that much? Yes. Is it ruining football? No. We had sports science and things back then. We just didn't. We just didn't tend to call it that. And those things have evolved to different degrees. But I mean, if you're looking back, for example, the 2008 team, they played, some of them played over 60 games that season, and a significant number, playing over, or a good number playing over 35. So, there was a lot of minutes in some of the legs of those players. And my memory's not the best, but I don't remember there being major injury issues that year. I know we did have some, but my question would just be, do we have the right people? Are we looking at things the right way? But then it also comes down to the manager, because ultimately it's unless a medical issue absolutely rules you out, then the manager still has the decision along with the player. If the medical team say that it's safe for a player to play because he's maybe at 80% rather than 100. I don't know if anyone watched I can't remember what it's called now, the show with like Roy Keane and Neville and Carragher and all that. They had Ange Postecoglou on recently. That's on, yeah. And he touched on that aspect where he talked about making a mistake when he made a decision on, I think it was Romero. It was either Romero or Van der Ven he was talking about. And they were at like 80%. They had a big game coming up, but then they had the European game coming up as well. And obviously, as we know, he was focusing on Europe that season after a point. But he made the decision to play the player, even though he wasn't quite 100%. You see, apparently it was about 80% because he had this big league game. And then both of them went and got injured. So, he talked about, like, he ultimately it come down to his decision. The medical team said, right, he's at 80%. He probably can play this game, but we would recommend leaving it another week. So, the manager has a decision to make there, because that'll be what the Rangers medical team will say to Danny Rowe when players Rangers, right, such and such is at 80%. Yes, he could play, but we recommend leaving him. And so he's got that decision on whether or not he's going to pick that, and that'll come down to how important the games are. But, when you're at Rangers, all the games are important. And especially I say that away to a bottom half team in the first 3 weeks of the season, that's a game that you can lose or draw and make up for it. Every game we've got now till the end of the season, that's not the case. So he has to balance that. And so I think it's just down to those decisions. If you get more of those decisions right, then it'll go well. If you get them wrong, then you might see, obviously, what we saw against Motherwell, where it looks like he maybe made some decisions with hearts in mind, which I think is the right thing to do. I think you, as much as, yes, it's one game at a time, you do still have to think of the bigger picture to at least a small degree. But some will go for you and some won't.
Absolutely. Jock, I'm going to come back round to you now. We'll jump on the Doug's teaming system. So he's went with Butland, Tav, Manny, Cornelius, Romans, Chucky, Diamande, Raskin, Olsen, Moore, and Nadir. Have you got any kind of thoughts on that?
I suppose Cornelius is the one that jumps out because we know what he can offer. But to me, I don't know. He just, he's had a goal threat going forward, and he come up with a couple of set piece goals before he got injured. But I don't know. To me, I just thought he was just maybe a wee bit soft, and maybe just just wasn't suited to this league. But then again, that's the eye test for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at Raskin again, and Raskin's really just jumping out at me because his output is just nil in terms of positivity for the team. Yes, he's there, he's doing other things, I get that, but he's the one that seems to get he's dropping deep to get the ball, and he's not impacting the game when he's doing that positively. And I can see why he's kept Tav in there. I mean, I went for the defensive side of Sterling. I went with the solidity with that option that whenever the timing's right, Sterling can bomb forward and can get involved because we've seen that. So for me, and then obviously I totally understand the Moore thing as well. I just, my preference is that Moore comes on and just ragdolls people whenever they're knacker, impact sub and that. And Nadir speaks for himself. I think we want to see more of the guy. I reckon the fact that we're on a plastic pitch at the weekend probably stopped him from starting the game. If we knew, as Doug says, maybe 80%, didn't want to risk it because if we weren't playing with the two up front, which we didn't, if one of them gets injured, that leaves us with two strikers then for potentially how many games before we want to split. You don't want to run that risk. So yeah, and Olsen again speaks for himself. We know he's got the quality. We've seen dribs and drabs. I think we need him to come on to a game now for the end of the season, and really show us what we're going to be paying a hefty outlay on. So I've no qualms with his team at all. I think it's it's solid. It's a team that can go out there and probably and should beat everybody else in the division. It's just a matter of the players actually doing that.
I know.
Can I
just confirm quickly? It's a 4-3-2-1, isn't it? Or is it a 4-3-1-2?
A 4-3-2-1.
4-3-2-1, right? That's my
Can
mistake.
I come back in the just two of the points there? The first one, Cornelius, I'm happy. To be honest, I'd be happy switching him out. I kind of just picked him because in this system he'll end up being a left centre back.
No backs he's done.
And he can do a bit of the forward running, attacking as well, and support Romans. But I'm not too precious about that one. I will come back on the Raskin point, though. I think Raskin's getting a huge amount of flack unfairly, particularly on his passing. To me, this is a definition of one of the things that the failings of the eye test. People are remembering the passes that go wrong, which is usually the ones where he's making the longer passes, so the more difficult passes. But they're forgetting the 100 passes that he gets right. Outside of our centre-backs, Raskin has our highest accurate passes per 90. He's got the 4th best accurate passes per 90 in the entire league. He is not a bad passer of the ball. Full stop, end of story. The numbers back it up. It's just that I understand the criticism about the drop-in, and some of those passes are popping between centre-backs, and so they're not as productive. So I do agree with that point that he made about he could be more positive, but he's not a bad passer, and that's a point I want to make.
Has been, Doug, though. His passing at the weekend was terrible, and
it wasn't. He was the 3rd best passer on this pitch.
Yeah, that's fine. 3rd best passer on the pitch, but those are safe, neat passes. It wasn't passes that was impacting on chances. It wasn't passes that was getting us in and unlocking doors, and that's the criticism of Raskin over the season because he drops to be that player, but I just don't think he has the ability to do it. It's different when he's sitting playing for Belgium when his safe passes to bloody De Bruyne, and he's
for Belgium, he's much further up the pitch. With Belgium, he's much further up the pitch. That's just part of the thing is he's quite obviously being told to drop into the hole because he drops into the hole with his defenders come out, and then our fullbacks push right up now, like right up. And that's why he has to drop because you need to keep a 3 if your 3 go that high. So it will impact. Now, as I say, I do agree with you though that he could be better.
Yes.
I'm just saying he's not as bad as I think people are characterizing him as. I do think he could still be better. Like he's not Steve Davis. If that was Steve Davis doing that, we'd be getting probably a lot more out of it. But I do think he's getting a bit of flack because he's obviously been asked to do something very specific by Danny Rowe. And that's not his fault. You know, I've seen this happen to other players I won't mention the names of, who are clearly told to, clearly it's part of the tactics for the team, yet the player gets the blame. And I kind of feel like Raskin's getting a bit of that right now.
Dino, you coming in?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the passing as a whole on Sunday was diabolical for a professional football match. So being third is not a great achievement, if you ask me. I think he literally kicked the ball out of play on Sunday. For me, he's far too passive a player in that six. Somebody commented there, he plays further forward than for Belgium, which I do believe is actually correct. And there is an element of truth, I think, to what Doug's saying about about what Rule's telling him to do. However, if that is the case, then Rule needs to change the tactics pronto, because we are Rangers. We shouldn't be so passive and slow and safe against any team in the league. It doesn't matter if it's Livingston, Celtic, Motherwell, Hearts, St Mirren. We're Rangers. We should be going out to steamroll these teams and with that level of arrogance. And I do think there's an element of what Raskin's been asked to do, because I said this on the pod yesterday, Raskin's best form for Rangers was last season under Barry Ferguson when he was more advanced.
Yeah.
He was one of the first names on the team sheet. He was unplayable. He was brilliant.
100%, mate.
And he's clearly got the shackles on him. And that is down to Rule, and kind of coincides with the point I made earlier on. That Rule's, I think, just wants to obviously play things safe. He's unsure what to do at times, and having Raskin come deep, keep being in possession of the ball, which I don't think is the best thing. But for me, because of Raskin's poor form, I think having him starting is not wise at the moment, if you ask me, because I think the fans are already on his back. When the fans got on your back coming into the business end of the season, it's not particularly good set of things for a player to be playing under when you've got 50,000 fans, booing you or jeering at you. That's not going to be good coming in when you're chasing a title to, especially a team that's in front that's not won a title for how long. So I wouldn't be having Raskin anywhere near the team.
Another passionate war cry for Dino. Another passionate war cry. Mate, on that, you're saying we're Rangers and we should be steamrolling teams. So, comment Doug a wee bit here. Do you not think that obviously he's playing a 4-2-3, a 4-3-2-1 instead of a 4-3-1-2 as is on the screen? Are you not going with 2 strikers then?
I'm going with 2 strikers, and I'm having 2 in midfield, 3 in midfield. 3 in midfield was good under Steven Gerrard, in the way that we were set up then.
Aye.
But the 3 in midfield now, like when we had the 3 in midfield under Gerrard, we did have a prime Tav who was contributing massively going forward, and Barisic, for all his defensive woes, was unplayable at times as well, because you had Kamara sitting in for him and you had Ryan Jack sitting in for Tav. and Stephen Davis being the composer of the orchestra, so it was well engineered. Now we just don't have that. This team sometimes look like they don't know how to play with one another. So having three in midfield, I just think makes us even more passive and gives in this mindset of letting teams get organised when we're in positions of strength to go and attack. Having three in the midfield, I think, is just going to allow teams to go back with 11 behind the ball.
Doug, feel free to come back in.
Well, I just like to point out to Jock, just had a wee look at the Livingston game there. Passes into the final third. Guess who made the second most passes into the final third in the entire pitch? Oh, Nicholas Raskin.
Aye, but the game did it? We had all the chances in the day.
But that's the thing though. We did. This is getting slightly off topic, but something else that's mildly annoyed me about the discourse about Livingston is there's been two people talking about that we weren't doing enough, but we created 31 chances. We actually did create a lot. The problem was that we didn't fucking put them in the back of the net. Our shooting was woeful and the goalie was great. That was the big issue. We actually created loads of chances. So the actual play itself wasn't necessarily that bad. We didn't actually play that bad in that game. The problem was that we made there was individual errors, mostly by Suter, and that we were poor in defending our set pieces. That was ultimately what cost us that game. Because obviously, if we don't basically give them 2 goals, then we win 2-0. Although that being said, I don't have that much faith they would have got the 2 goals if they weren't right up against it. But anyway, back on topic. I mean, Dino, thanks. You just were totally depressed us by going through how great we used to be and all the great players we used to have. I mean, I feel like Dino's backed up the point about if we had that Steve Davis player, which is a position we've been trying to fill, that makes a huge difference to the team. Raskin, like we say right now, and again, this is why I'm kind of being a bit passionately defending Raskin, even though I do admit he's not been at his best. But again, he's been asked to play this role where he's dropping all the way back and becoming basically sitting as a centre back. And like Dino said, he was amazing at the tail end of last season where he's a more attacking force. He's much more of an Arfield type. He was running and getting in and scoring headers at the back post and things like that. That was, I don't understand why we aren't using him like that anymore when he was quite clearly so effective at doing it. I'm assuming that it's a trade-off, that he doesn't think we've got the other players to do that. So then, to me, that the question is, well, does that mean can Deal not do that? Banner's not necessarily doing that. So, does that mean we need to still buy another player that can do that, or is the plan to buy the 6 and so that Raskin can become that, or do we need to get both because Raskin's not going to be here?
It's an awkward one. I feel as if Raskin's being misused, and I think it's a contributing factor to his poor form. I think the whole panel tonight would agree on that the way he's getting used. I hate this dropping between centre backs to your full back strap on. It's almost if you're dropping into a 3-5-2. But the sacrifice you're making when you're in transition and you've got the ball is you've got one of your most effective players playing at centre back when he should be further up the pitch. As if you're going to do that 3-5-2, breaking lines, getting his runs, he's not the guy to pick that pass out. Doug, I know you've come out with stats and stuff on that, but he's not. If Raskin's making a run, Raskin's not going to find him for the 6, if that makes any sense, in my opinion. And I think that's something we're seriously lacking within the squad. Dean, I'm going to come on to your team now, mate. You have went for Butland, Stelling, Manny, Cornelius, Romans, Barron, Chucky, Ant-Man, Olsen, Nadiri, and then rotating with my off-scare me. Talk me through it, pal. I quite like it.
Same as I said, same formation as what Jock picked, the 4-4-2 or whatever you want to call it. And because that defence, you're solid. I know you were saying it about Cornelius and stuff, but I think for me, it was probably, I know it was a very low bar, but probably our best centre half before he got injured.
Yeah.
And
totally agree.
And I am a massive massive fan. I've been harping on for long enough about balancing the side and having a left-footed centre back. To me, that's quite imperative for any team, I think. And knowing, seeing Romans actually and what his game's all about, I think Cornelius has the legs as well to cover in the left back area. And I kind of, I guess, not seeing his ability.
To interrupt you really quickly, I think it was under Russell Martin. Cornelius played left back at an away game. It might have, I don't know if
it's a Europe, maybe.
No, but it was an away domestic match, and he actually played really, really well, and everybody was kind of saying like he looked like a young bomber. Why is a centre back playing left back? But he was really good at getting up the park. I completely agree with you on Cornelius. He's not somebody that even entered my thoughts because of the injury. But if I remember Twitter at the time, nobody was complaining about Derek Cornelius before he got injured.
Yeah, that's right.
It was the game against Falkirk.
Falkirk.
Yeah, he got that assist where he popped the ball.
Mind that now. So I guess Cornelius can fill in at left centre back, left back, kind of like what Bassey did. I'm not saying he's on level with ability wise as Bassey, but just in that role. And then before Barron got injured, he was our best player and one of the best players in Scotland. And one of the first names on the team sheet for me. So, and because for me, Dio's only really been recently coming onto a game, I don't think Dio for me is warranted enough to be somebody that I can rely on. Also, with Barron being a Scottish player and, played in the league and stuff, when you're, we're going about winners and stuff. We signed Stevie Whittaker for Hibs and we signed Kirk Broadfoot for St Mirren, I believe. I know, but they were winners. They were winners when they came to Rangers, weren't they? So,
100%. So I really go and finish off, Dino.
So what I'm saying is, Barron for me can fill that sort of role within the side. And it's funny because the question was asked earlier: if Tav's not playing and Suter's not playing, who would you give the armband to? An option for me would definitely be Barron. And obviously, I think Giovanni picks himself because since he's came in, he's like Kamara did when Kamara came in 2019. He just fitted into the team like he'd been there forever. And Giovanni for me's been the exact same. So he picks himself. And the reason I'm picking Ant-Man instead of Mikey Moore is because of age. Now,
right, okay.
I know that Moore's, he's hungry and he's obviously young and, phenomenal footballing ability. That boy has got a high ceiling, that's for sure. But I think because of age, and I just think that's why I've picked Ant-Man. Now, probably the best thing to do would be actually to rotate them at the right time and give them both minutes. But for me, I'd be starting Ant-Man, but just purely because of age. And also, and Olsen picks himself for me. He's, obviously been a bit rusty coming in, but now I think going forward, I think he will step up and take his game to the next level and be important in this running. And that in the dairy, it was funny because I read somebody saying that it reminds him of Muller. That in the dairy is just, again, looks like he's played with us for ages. The work rate's phenomenal and he looks like a most composed player. And rotating Chermiti and Miovski because Chermiti can't play in the wee games and it looks like Miovski can't play in the big games. So they will both for me rotate and play them at the right times.
Lads, feel free to kind of pile on each other as you're talking, spice it up a wee bit. Jock, I seen you kind of, I don't want to say licking your lips, but you smiled when Dane started there. Did you get something on your mind?
I can't mind what he said. What did he say?
I don't know.
I can't remember what he said. I'm looking at. Was he talking about Barn?
Maybe.
I could see like Barn there again. I get it. Barn's the unfortunate one, isn't it? Because he was really coming on to. He was growing into being a Rangers player, and the shirt was his because the effort and he was doing things that we haven't seen him do before. And the Rangers shirt this season before he got that bloody injury. And it's the same with Chukmani. Chukmani is Dino says there with the same with Kamara. He just fit it in, and he doesn't look as though he hasn't been here for I don't know how long. He just does everything right. Again, he's just one of those ones that going forward, we just want to see a wee bit more and see what more he can do, just contribute a wee bit more. But see his second ball retention and stuff's ridiculous. I know it was one of these guys called on podcast a couple of weeks ago called my Hoover. He just finds that second ball and just takes it and does things with it. So the rest of those guys, yeah, be fine. Again, so Cornelius is only one for me because obviously we haven't seen him for so long, and I suppose you kind of forget what really he's offered, and all I can say is the goals he's contributed. But I can understand that the same formation I'm going for. Absolutely, we need to be scoring goals. We need to be creating chances, and I guess a team like that should, on paper, create plenty of chances against any team within this league. So, yeah, absolutely with it. Rotate Miovski. Miovski will get goals in this league. We just need to give him chances, and it's something this team under Danny Rowe and Russell Martin struggled with this season, was chance creation. We're starting to sort of get over that sort of hump that we were facing, because look at the weekend, the amount of chances we created, we just couldn't score. So we just need to get past that, and I think we'll be fine.
It was weird. I was listening to Super Scoreboard last night, and Gordon Duncan came away with a stat that, see, for ball recovery, Motherwell are top of the league in the top 5 leagues in Europe. They're the best team in Europe at ball recovery. That's absolutely wild for a Motherwell side. That is something new. I'm an eye test guy, right? I am not stats orientated whatsoever. But see Motherwell getting the ball back the quickest in Europe, that's some feat, man.
But are you watching Motherwell play against other teams? You watch the Motherwell St Mirren game. You watch how the St Mirren set up. Space everywhere. Everywhere they look, there's stats by their passing rings around teams, because teams, whenever they play against Motherwell, Hibs, and they both play each other, they set up differently, and there's more space to operate in. And I think that's why Motherwell are seeing so much success, because yes, they're a great team at passing the ball because they play the best football, and you're full credit to the coach for building what he's building there. But I do think they're just seeing the advantage of coming up against a sort of a bigger pitch when they're playing football. They're not coming up against these flat back, packed defences where there's not much space to work in. There's more space to operate in, and when they get going, they do get going. And I think I think Motherwell are maybe just riding that crest of that. Maybe I'm doing them a disservice, but that's just me.
Doug, 2 questions. One, what's your take on Dean's team? And 2, why have you got that doll hanging up in your background?
Everyone enjoyed him so much, I thought I'd leave him there. He's been there for weeks. I've
only noticed him.
He's been there ever since he made his first appearance. Dino's team. I really like Dino's team for because one thing I think this team could really easily do is transition into a back 3 if they wanted to be more aggressive, with Sterling, Manning, and Cornelius as your back 3. Cornelius, again, for the same reason I kind of picked Cornelius. He'd be your left, Sterling be your right, and they'd still be able to push up a little bit to support. And you'd have Barron there to kind of be able to sit back with Manny and keep things sort of sharp. You'd be able to, if you wanted, maybe go a back 5 with the 3 and have Romans as a wing back, and then pull Ant-Man to the right as a wing back. So I think there's a lot of room for manoeuvre and tinkering in that team, which I like. The obvious, no surprises coming from me. The obvious player that's missing is Tav. No surprises.
To be fair, sorry to interrupt you, Doug, and something I actually should have said. Look, the Sterling isn't going to be reliable to play week in, week out. So Tav will get plenty of minutes in my team, that's for sure, because Sterling just isn't reliable. We'll be lucky if he does make it till the end of the season without another niggle. But going for me, obviously the strongest team in that, but Tav definitely get his minutes, and I think it's I think we've actually seen a resurgence of Tav because of him being able to take time out and rest this season.
I agree. Yeah.
Instead of being relied upon to play every match pitch at 34, unless you're Cafu, you know you're not going to be able to do that right back. So for me, Sterling's obviously my preference to start right back is the strongest 11, but he's not. He's made it polystyrene, so he's not going to last. And Tav is a very he's the captain. He's still got things to give the team between the end of the season. He's still assisting and things like that. And that kind of correlates the reason as to why I picked Barron as well, because when Tav wasn't playing, Barron, or even when Tav was playing, Barron was still taking corners and stuff and set pieces. So it's got the balance there as well. But just to jump in on you there, I wasn't dissing Tav altogether, but
no. I mean, I think the ideal scenario for this season would have been if Aarons had come in and been decent, and you'd have been able to then rotate between them, and then Sterling had come back from injury, and you'd have been able to rotate between Sterling and Tav. Because I think you've got, obviously, Sterling's the better defender, Tav is the better attacker. So you would use them in the games that you would get the best benefits out of them. So, I say I'm all for that. And that's why I think, the reason the discussion about him potentially getting another year, because start of the season, everybody pretty much was like, Tav's gone at the end of this season, that's that. And then as the season's going on, people have gone on with this conversation about, maybe Tav should get another year. Now, the only reason he should get another year is if it's to do basically that, where we bring in, ideally, the right-sided Romans, and then you've maybe got someone there who is fit 99.9% of the time, and obviously who knows the club and everything else. And so you've got that solid backup, and that's what you would do if he stayed another year, because you couldn't have him there another year and still be relying on him again, because it's just been far too long now. He's had a great career with Rangers, albeit not winning what we would want. But there comes a time for every player when we need to start moving on, and we're at that point. So that was all I was going to say about that. And there's a guy in the comments, Wilfred Nancy, who's talked about, and I've seen other people say this as well, Tav slows the game down. I don't see that, because Tav has never been a player that runs with the ball. He's he did a bit more when he was younger, but he's about his passing. If you look at his progressive carrying, it's always been pretty low, but his progressive passing is high. That's how Tav moves the ball forward. He'll break out from defence into midfield, and then he passes it. So I didn't really see that. But then he went on later on to say, he said, Tav can't play against Celtic, but then he later on went to say, we have to go all out attack against Celtic. Well, if you're going all out attack, I would suggest playing our top equal goal scorer, best assister, person who creates the most chances, and person who creates the best chances. So take your pick. If you want to be defensive, that's fine. Don't play Tav. But if you're going all out attack, you can't,
Scotty, I have one for you here then. Given it's Walter Smith's birthday today, out of the three formations that we've put towards you, or the two formations, what one would Walter Smith pick, and what would Walter Smith's team be out of this current crop of players?
It would be a 4-4-2. It's the 4-2-2-2.
Yeah. Except
a 4-2-2-2 is more or less a 4-4-2. Sorry for getting my words up there. My words mixed up. I reckon going with... He would love Sterling. He would absolutely love Sterling. He would be a Manny fan because of the physicality. I'm not sure about the partner. He'd love Romans. Connor Barron, before he got injured, was almost orchestrating the play. You could see him off the ball, telling players where they should be. Connor Barron's really, really maturing as a Rangers player. Chuck Kwanick, I'm sorry, but see, apart from a tackle that he can put in and win titles in the deck, I'm struggling to see what he's bringing just now. I'm probably going to get pelters for it in the comments, but it's only, I've not been to a game in a while, so I've not seen this guy live to be able to see what he's providing. So I would probably go Butland, Sterling, Manny, Cornelius, Romans, barring Diamandi, and then Mikey Moore,
Aye.
Olsen. No, I'm going to go Ant-Man Olsen, Nadiri, and Mikey Moore, but I'm going to play Mikey Moore just off and give him that free roll to go and cause carnage. I think that's potentially their best team. Because honestly, on Cornelius, if you think back to what he was bringing to the team at the time, he was head and shoulders above everybody. Like, he was really, really good. The problem is getting that match fitness back now that he's been out for X amount of months. Walter Smith would have picked. That team earned on my screen wouldn't exist, Joe, if Walter Smith was here. Just wouldn't exist because there's not enough balls in it. There's not enough courage, there's not enough bravery, there's not enough. I mean, some of these players crap at the fans giving them a boo when you heard Russell Martin at the start of the season. And while that narrative has changed, Danny Rowe has done really well to bring the synergy back together. I really don't think you would see at least half of these guys in this team if Walter Smith was here. Just to answer your question.
No, that's it. That's what triggered in my head whenever you asked what obviously when Dino put up. I think we were talking about past players and Stephen Davis, Barisic, the boys that at the time had that ability and delivery, set plays and stuff that it was just we just became accustomed to, and I think it was almost like we kind of got bored of it because we were just that used to it over the years, and we were crying out for a change, and then the change happened, and then we went so far back because the goal was not going to give you that ball in the box, but obviously Roman as we're getting there, we're seeing what he can offer and drips and drabs again, but I think it'll be more towards the end of the season really see him hitting the ground running. But yeah, I just thought I'd ask the question. Obviously it's a big man's birthday, so
fair enough. I'd never say anything about a 4-2-3-1, so just to reply to that comment, I think it was a 4-2-2-2 that I said the book had played as a 4-4-2, which I think's definitely making a comeback. Sean Dyche is going to be in Barcelona in a couple of years, man. So just quickly, lads, I'm going to come to you for some closing thoughts. Curry, thanks for liking and subscribing. There's a problem with your Twitter. I don't know what it is. I'm going to go and look into it after this because it's coming up on my Twitter that it's live, but when I go into Journal's Twitter, it's not live, so I need to try and fix that and find out what the heck's going on. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. The podcast is brought to you by the good guys over at Bluebells Bar over in Puerto del Carmen, the Rangers pub in Puerto del Carmen, so head on over and see Kenny and the team. They show every Rangers game going and more. They've got quiz nights, they've got different stuff on the go. It's a good atmosphere. So, Jock, closing thoughts, mate. Thanks for coming on.
No, thanks for having me. That was a good, friendly, healthy discussion. Bit competitive, bit argumentative, but sure, every relationship's like that, isn't it? Thanks again.
Very true, mate. Very true. Doug, thanks for coming on, mate.
I'm more than happy to. I didn't realise I was in a relationship with Jock, but okay, I'm fine with that. But yeah, it's been a good one.
Definitely, it's been a good pod. Thank you again. You definitely argued your points with stats, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think we're going to need to get an eye test against a stats pod up and running as our next debate. Dino, thank you for coming on, mate. Pleasure as always.
Aye, thanks for having me. Good being on with Jock and Doug and yourself, and for everybody watching, I'm just going to reiterate, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so, share far and wide, and hit the like button.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. I have not brought up any comments on screen tonight on purpose because, as you can see, Doug is prepared as a fantastic new overlay where the comments are on the screen. So just giving you a wee heads up, don't take it into heart, don't take it all personally. It's none today when you have all said everything in the comments has been fantastic as usual. We're going to close off there. The analysis guys should be back tomorrow night. They're going to break down the 4-2-2 system. Look at where it's working, where it needs a wee bit of work. They'll be back tomorrow night. Get your notification bell on if you're on a YouTube channel, because then you will know what time. The time's not been decided yet. There's still a lot of work in the background going into that one. If we're not back tomorrow night, we'll be back on Thursday with the usual Q&A. And all it leaves me to say is every night is a Rangers Journal night. Good night.